Have you ever wanted to just throw in the towel, leave the hustle and bustle of the overcrowded city life and just pack it in? Head out to the wilds of Alaska, live off-grid, and just thrive in self-sufficiency and simple living? If so, this is the video for you. A true look at off-grid versus on-grid Alaska. It might not be exactly what you're thinking, but there might just be a place for you. Welcome to Modern Homestead, Alaska. I'm Jessica, and if this is your idea of off-grid living in the wilds of Alaska, you might not be too far off. Join me today. I'd like to share a video with you about what we experience both on-grid and off-grid here. Let's first define what we mean by off-grid living. Having been here for several years now, and experiencing things from off-grid to on-grid life, we recognize off-grid generally means not relying on any utility services like electricity, water, or sewage, and can extend to road systems, emergency services, shopping and supplies, even mail service, and the list goes on. On the other hand, on-grid means a connection to a municipality or a service of some sort. It comes directly to the consumer. The customer is able to just have the service at their home or location without any additional work or effort. The basic services we've already covered, but this can go quite a bit further and include things like Amazon and UPS, internet, and even basic phone service that many have grown accustomed to and you might not realize are a grid. And in reality, many of these things aren't even available to all sorts of Alaskans. Alaska offers a couple of other levels of on-grid versus off-grid that kind of lay somewhere in the most extreme, being remote off-grid, and then somewhere in the middle is a hybrid. Just as an FYI, our house is a hybrid. It's not completely on-grid and it's not completely off-grid either. We're going to go ahead and address the elephant in the room and say that in some ways all Alaskans are dependent on the grid in some way, shape, or form. Even remote villages are accessible and supplied by modern conveniences such as planes, trains, and automobiles. They are stocked and supplied with things like food from big chain stores such as Costco. They have gas and fuel for heating and snow machines. Sadly, gone are the days living in homes built by the Inuit people and heated by the oil from the fat of the wild animals that they harvested. That's all been replaced by fuel and oil heat from the ground. Drilling and heck, even a wood stove is made from steel or cast iron and can be considered a modern convenience that requires the grid in some way to get here to Alaska and to be put into homes. And even though it's sunk in that living off-grid still required the grid in some way, shape, or form, that in no way discounts or dismisses just how hard off-grid life in Alaska can be. An Alaskan's idea of off-grid and remote off-grid may be different, but they are both extreme ways of living. Our idea of an off-grid home most likely has access to the road system from a vehicle. There are often short distances to hospitals and medical care, as well as grocery stores and all the shopping you could possibly imagine. Remote off-gridders, on the other hand, they gain access to their homes and property in definitely much more difficult ways. Some take trains and planes, snow machines, or boats up rivers, and they manage to haul all necessary supplies and live off the road system, and they have limited or no direct access to things like medical or emergency services like fire or rescue. And in the event of a real emergency, they could be completely cut off for long periods of time. I'm out here at our completely off-grid cabin in Willow, Alaska. And Willow has become fairly well known in the YouTube world for its vast off-grid communities. The cabin is nestled right here next to Willow Creek, and it takes about 45 minutes to get here from our home in Wasilla. And in the 45 minutes that it took me to get here, I passed along everything from medical services to vets, gas stations, and everything in between. And most off-gridders in this area have access to main roads just like we do from our cabin. And one of the main points and purposes for that is most of the off-gridders that we personally know work jobs that require them to leave their home. A couple of the reasons we chose this off-grid property are access to the road. Another reason we chose it is its accessibility to the town of Willow. And it gives the illusion of being just totally remote and out here and alone. So it fills all of the gaps. Your heart is out here amongst the wilderness, enjoying what Alaska has to offer, and yet within seconds, I can be at one of the best burger joints in the whole state. That's not to say it doesn't come with its traditional Alaska hard challenges, and it certainly does. Living amongst the living and flowing water here right off of Willow Creek that I mentioned, sometimes the road turns into a river all its own, and it may become inaccessible to certain vehicle types, and it does become quite treacherous. As short as the distance to the main road may be, there are days where it feels totally inaccessible. When we moved to Alaska, we actually lived in this dry cabin here in the woods right on the lake, and we hauled water for our daily needs. We would heat it up on a camp stove, only to stand in the woods in our birthday suits to shower, regardless of temperature. And this battle is a daily struggle for those off-grid. They might or might not have a well, and they might be hauling water just for basic needs like self-care. While we're on the subject of water, do you know what a 5-gallon bucket of water weighs? 41.7 pounds. And I haul 2 5-gallon buckets for watering my animals twice a day throughout the winter. Now, can you imagine being off-grid and having to haul all of your water? Everything for your garden, your animals, your livestock, as well as your own personal care needs, bathing, laundry, dishes, the whole 9 yards. This is why I say off-gridders aren't only tough as nails, they're also strong as all get out. Just off the main highway that runs from Anchorage to Fairbanks is a local watering hole. Anchorage to Fairbanks is really a far distance as far as mileage goes, but the watering hole is used by off-gridders and travelers alike. Now, just imagine being an off-gridder, using this and hand hauling all of your water to and from your home. This crystal clear spring water is open year round for those who need it and use it, and it's honestly used by many up here in order to collect fresh water and take it to their home. And just like that, there's a gallon of Alaska spring water for us to take home. The outhouse might actually be the most recognizable thing of off-grid living. And while we lived at the dry cabin, this was the outhouse we used. And we've had the pleasure of using lots of outhouses. And I can attest from first-hand knowledge that this is quite possibly one of the cutest outhouses. But cute, it doesn't make it less of a hole in the ground where you are exposed to the elements and you just do your business and get on with your day. And this, my friends, is the #1 reason we are not completely off-grid. I don't know about you, but the older I get, the more I have to go pee at night. And I'm not getting up in the pitch black dark when it's negative 20 degrees outside, blowing sideways snow in order to come and relieve myself. So, like I said, off-gridders, they are tough as nails. Most off-gridders are dependent on batteries, generators, or solar power in order to power their homes and life. Keep in mind though, solar is very undependable a great part of the year up here. In the wintertime, when we have very short days, the sun doesn't quite reach over the horizon, solar panels aren't getting the sun that they need. Therefore, Alaskans are heavily dependent on generators, and that means gas and fuel, but the generators themselves are a whole nother animal. Most Alaskans have 4 to 5 different generators on any given property, and most of the time they only have one of them up and running. It is hard on these pieces of equipment. Here at our cabin, there's just 2 you can see from here, and we have 2 more in the cabin. You have got to have a fighting spirit to live up here off-grid, because you're going to be fighting against these generators the entire time. When my son was out here for the whole first winter, he was physically able to pick up and carry the generator into the cabin, allow the wood stove to heat it up so that it would start. We hit negative 30 and even below out here, and we had nearly 10 foot of snow total drop in this location. It's been a great winter so far, but my mom staying out here has to have a much smaller generator to be physically able to move it in and out. She would be able to just fire up this little generator and get herself some power. Some remote off-gridders in Alaska access their properties in the most mind-blowing way, in my opinion, and that is via a flag stop train. Alaska has a train service that you literally go out to the tracks, flag down a train, it stops for you, and you access your property on and off of that train. Now imagine, if you will, going to Costco, driving the hour-and-a-half home with a gallon of milk in order to get to a parking lot where you have to leave your vehicle. You get on top of a snow machine, you strap a 1-year-old to your chest and your husband with a broken hand, and you head off 5 miles into the wilderness with that gallon of milk. You don't have to imagine, because my friends at Remote Life Alaska actually do that. And several other Remote Life Alaska channels, they are a whole different animal. Living off-grid in Willow, Alaska sometimes is very much a personal choice. It isn't that you don't have access to power lines, it's that you choose to live off-grid. And we support that. Whether you have access to major roads and power lines, you get the right to choose whether you want to be off-grid or on-grid here. Remote life is not for those who like social interactions. In fact, it's a few and far between out there in the bush. Even those who live remote and maybe have someone that lives near them, they spend a great deal of time alone. So if you're a social creature like I am, remote might not be the best life for you. If you like access to things like churches, community centers, and events. I'm at Willow's Community Center, and right here off of the lake is the official restart of the Iditarod race. Not this year due to snow, and it's not quite cold enough. They moved it to Fairbanks, but if you like interactions like this and social and all of those things, remote might not be exactly what you're dreaming of. Hybrid homes like ours fall somewhere in between the off-gridders who have access to public roads and fully on grid. We heat with only wood. We haul our own propane. We have no fiber optics, no internet whatsoever. We don't even have basic dial-up, like a phone service, like old-fashioned phones. We don't have any services at our home except for electricity. And we chose to be on the electric grid for several reasons. Before I go too deep into our homestead, I want to just say that having experienced off-grid and remote parts of Alaska, one of our trips into remote Alaska, there was an accident and we had to use emergency services for a rescue and transportation to a hospital and some other things. Having experienced those things firsthand, we absolutely feel that the choice to live as a hybrid is absolutely the right choice for us. Something you might not think about when choosing your location in Alaska was something that didn't cross our mind either. At this point, I'm glad for where we're at. My 89-year-old grandmother lives with us after she had a fall, broke her back, and now our location, as opposed to the off-grid cabin in Willow or several other locations, she is able to actually get in-home physical therapy. And that isn't something that is accessible or a service to many parts of Alaska. So choosing to live someplace where she can get the care she needs has benefited us, even though it wasn't front of mind when choosing our location. The best part is she didn't have to go into a home. She could stay here and we can get the care that she needs. So something I would highly recommend considering if you're looking at that move to Alaska. One other thing the choice of this home offered as well is our children were in high school and they wanted to go to public school. They were able to go to a local public school from here and it wasn't treacherous. They were able to get there fairly quickly and experience all of the sports and the different things like that. If you choose a remote life or an off-grid life and maybe you want to homeschool, and that might be an option that you are dead set on and this is what we're going to do, just know that access to schools is also dependent on your access to things like the grid and the road system. Having not considered the medical and many of those other things when choosing our home in Alaska, I'm hoping that anyone that's looking at moving here and interested in this life will hear these things and think of some of the stuff we didn't think of. But the choice was clear for us. I've already said it, the number one reason we choose to have electrical is water. There we go. We want hot water on tap, at hand, and we also want it to go into a septic system. And the only way to do that truly is with a good source of electricity. You can do it off-grid. You can have running water. But our well and the size of our home, it literally requires electricity to pump the water from the ground. It goes into a pressure tank. From there, it's on tap throughout the rest of the house. My husband works and in town on grid, needs access to his job. We want a shower. A running water shower that isn't heating up water in a bucket and having to deal with those struggles. He wants to get up at 4 in the morning, turn on the shower, have immediate hot water, and be able to bathe every single day before he goes out into public to do his work. Many off-gridders have an extreme difficult time using powering washers and dryers. Having a large family, Alaska is dirty. I'm telling you, I do more laundry than I have ever done. In fact, we have 2 washer and dryers in this house. One is for everyone else, and this one is for my husband and I in our closet. And it is not an uncommon thing for on-grid Alaskans to actually have two washer and dryers to deal with things like animal stuff and the dirt and the filth that comes in with living this Alaska life. And this was something that I just absolutely wanted to be part of my everyday life. And yet at the same time, we built this amazing kitchen without a dishwasher. I have an ability to put in a dishwasher if I desire, and I don't desire. We have been here since 2021, and I still don't miss having a dishwasher. That is something you're gonna have to give up in off-grid life, because not only are you hauling and carrying water, the electricity and everything that goes with it. So some of those conveniences, even though I was happy to give up a regular traditional heat system and a dishwasher, I still want water on tap. If you found today's video helpful in any way, would you do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button? It would sure help our channel out. If you still have a dream of living in Alaska, but you have decided that off-grid, remote, or a hybrid are not what's right and best for you, it's important that we know most Alaskans are actually on grid. You can hear the main road that's running right behind the camera, and I'm standing here by major power, and literally feet away there are homes all the way up the sides of the hills, and they have connection to the complete grid. In fact, most of the people that live in Alaska are completely on grid. They live in cities like, I think Anchorage has over half of our population, as well as cities like Fairbanks, Juneau, Wasilla, Palmer, Eagle River, just to name a few. Most Alaskans aren't having to fight the battle of on-grid or off-grid in any way, shape, or form. I hope in this video you've come to realize what I have come to realize. Remote off-gridders are a small group of Alaskans that have truly embodied the survival spirit. They're individuals that are willing to flag down a train or take a snow machine miles into the wood, and they embark on an adventure that is lost to most of our society. And although it's hard to comprehend and understand why someone would choose that kind of solitude or life, it's also easy to see at the same time that there is a great amount of satisfaction in living in a way that every single day you get up and you choose to survive. You don't take the easy way out on just about anything. And I look up to and admire those who choose a remote off-grid life here. And even though it's not the life for me, and the smallest group of individuals are living it, I think they are an amazing group of people, and I think entire videos should be devoted to them and their lifestyle and trying to just live vicariously through their self-reliance and sustainability, as well as that driving Alaskan spirit. An off-gridder in Alaska is still tapping into that same survival spirit, and they are also a smaller group of individuals, not quite as small as the remote off-gridders, but they are a unique group of individuals as well that have chosen off-grid life, whether it's a personal choice and whether it's just because services aren't available where they choose and want to live. So I look at them and think, once again, what an amazing spirit it must take to be that determined, to haul your water, to deal with the generators and the power and all of the issues that come along with off-grid living. I, again, don't envy it so much to say, as much as I look up to it, and I think they are so tough, and I just don't know that that's the life for me here. I believe hybrids, like the way that we choose to live, are straddling the line a little bit. We don't care too much for internet or phone or any of those types of services, and we don't mind hauling our own propane and heating with only wood. However, we really enjoy a hot shower right there on tap. Just flip it and get in. So for us, even though we've experienced lots of what remote and off-grid have to offer, we just really don't feel that it's the life for us in particular, especially because Aaron enjoys his job. He likes to go to work and leave the home and go and do those things. And we need to live someplace that he's able to do that. And so I do think those who are hybrids still have the Alaska spirit, and we still have a survival in us. I wouldn't be too quick to dismiss an on-grid Alaskan either, because no matter what amount of electricity one may have, the services, negative 30 degrees or negative 20 or whatever it manages to get down to, and the massive dumps of snow, as well as the earthquakes and the wildfires and all that goes with living in Alaska, those things aren't easy, no matter whether you're on grid or not. They are still truly Alaskan, and they are putting up with environments and things that most can't even begin to fathom. Hanging out on the porch, having a cup of coffee with the dogs on the cabin that we first lived in when we got here to be Alaskans is quite emotional. As I look back and reminisce on what it felt like that first morning to wake up, to have the lake in the backyard, but to be amongst the trees and the forest. And I remember saying to Aaron that some people live like this every single day, and yet it feels like a vacation. It's a spot on the earth that I would want to spend family vacations and summer times, paddleboarding or maybe scooting around or all of the different things. But mostly I enjoyed the peace and quiet, the solitude that it offered, and the beauty that surrounded it. I am still at awe every single day that I'm so blessed to get to live in this exact spot. And with that, I say this: we are all Alaskans, off-grid or not. We have something in common. We love it here. We live here, and we thrive here. I hope that you will choose to join us in the future. Again, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, you'll get notifications. Thumbs up, comment, and sharing all do actually help this channel to grow, and it is the best, freest way that you can support us. With that, I hope that you are blessed. I hope that you find a moment to sit in solitude today and just be grateful for the life that you have and the whatever it is that surrounds you. Find a piece of gratitude. And with that, I hope to see you in the next video. Be blessed. See you soon.